1. Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2. Get some good, some food in you. Step 3. Think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo. Set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flaws, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2. Get some good, some food in you. Step 3. Think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Need to hear this, but let me put this out here. Stop sparing folks. Hello, somebody. Stop sparing folks. Nobody cared when your feelings was hurt. Nobody cared when you was pacing the flow. Nobody cared when you was sliding down the wall. Nobody cared when you was standing over there with a face full of tears. You had to suck it up, buttercup. But then when it come to other folk feelings, here you are. Want to tiptoe around it. Want to avoid the elephant in the room. I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to disturb the peace. Stop sparing folk. Ain't nobody spare you when it was your turn. Give it to them real. Give it to them raw. Give it to them uncut and uncensored. This is exactly what it is. This way you had me messed up at. Yeah. I ain't playing with nobody this season, baby.
Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's hump day, guys. So we are going to be sliding into the weekend. So everything is going to be fun, and joy as we start approaching the weekend. I hope everybody had a wonderful couple days. Good morning, Miss Potty Mouth, followed by Van Lady. Cranky Pants is in the house. The real me too. Who else? Patricia Miller. It's nice to see you as well. Kathy S. Be Kind is in the house. Nice to see you, Love Bug. What else do we have? Got a few people. You guys are awfully conversational this morning. I didn't even notice. I've been back here working. I popped in and there's like 93 messages in here. I'm like, whoa. So good morning, Lulu's Nana. It's nice to see you. Sonia, nice to see you as well. Good morning. Jennifer, good morning. Who else do we have? Gigi for life. And our beloved Ruby. Glamper True Crime Podcast is the newest member of the Bullhorn Betty Club. She's been a member for forever. She just made it official. So it's nice to see you all here. Let's see, who else do we have in the house? I'm not even reading these comments. I'm just pushing through. I'm looking at names. Sheila, it's nice to see you. I'll have to go back. Robert's girl, it's nice to see you. Kim, lovely to have you here. Nani as well. Elise Ward, nice to have you. JJ is in the house. Made it on time. It's not class, JJ. Let's just be honest. It's not class, okay? The teacher's not going to write you up if you come in a little late. Obsessed with true crime. It's nice to see you. Lindsay, nice to see you as well. TLC is me. Good morning. Who else do we have? Lindsay, good morning. I think I said that. May, good morning. It's nice to see you in here. Night Demon. Dun, dun, dun. Easy E, it's nice to have you as well. Soaring Eagle, Kim 22. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As you see, and everybody else that I didn't have, Jason, it's nice to see you. Are you trying to say I'm honorary or good morning? No, I'm just joking. We know the M silent in morning. We understand, Jason. We understand. Don't worry. We won't beat you up too bad or embarrass you first thing in the morning for your misspelling. We won't do that here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. I'm just kidding. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We do have some great news coming out this morning. Many of you know. Hold on here. I must have been out in my yard with these. Oh, I was out in the yard with this. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm getting prickled. I got sand spurs in my little throw that I put over my arms. I was out in the yard. Drives me nuts because I try to tell my yard guy I like the sand spurs dug up, not mowed over, because when you mow them over, it makes it 10 times worse and they just spread. If you dig up the sand spurs before you mow, you reduce the sand spurs, not make them worse. But anyways, we have good news this morning. We have really, really, really good news. Many of you know I did discuss a case. This is Harlow yesterday about how this beautiful 9-month-old baby was taken and everybody under the sun was looking for her. Apparently the car was stolen, that she was in it. We kind of had some information coming in that it was at the store, but it sounds like it was from the house. I reviewed some information that this car was seen leaving in a high rate of speed. This baby girl is lucky to be alive this morning, and I'll explain why. Good morning, Dumplin. Deb, it's nice to see you. She's lucky to be alive because the car was hard to find. It was rolled backwards into like bushes or something where they had these big plants. It was very obscured from my understanding and made it very difficult to get out as well. So this young child is very lucky to be alive, but she was brought home safe. She was brought home healthy, and she was brought home unharmed. So these are the stories that we love to hear. I hope whomever is responsible for putting this beautiful baby in harm's way is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The fullest extent of the law. So good news, guys, good news. And, you know, a big shout out also to law enforcement, because from my understanding, there were groups, large groups out searching for this beautiful baby. And none of the groups, they were all coming up. Apparently, this was good police work in locating this vehicle that this child was in. So a big shout out to all the volunteers that were so selfless to come out and look for her. You did your part. You did your part. And I don't want anybody ever taking that away, because again, even though she wasn't found by the searchers, we don't want to forget them either. You know, I can't imagine that the terrain was easy to go through. But again, great news. She was brought home, and she was brought home safely. So the next case, not so sweet or kind. And this is not the first time I've heard about this particular case. Oh, guys, before I take this banner off, if you guys are just coming in, please don't forget to go out there and hit the thumbs up button as you come in. Getting back to this. So this is not the first time I heard it. Some of my audience has actually brought this to my attention a few days ago about a link between two women found in two separate storage units. And it, you know, when we get busy back here, we kind of have to pick and choose which cases that, you know, we touch, which cases that we actually decide to cover. And, you know, those are the things. So this one was one that I have been kind of monitoring, but haven't really brought it forward. And then I saw this People's article about it. And I thought this was really interesting, and thought that I would at least bring awareness to this case for my audience. And police suspect two women who were found dead in separate storage units in Minnesota are linked to the same man. St. Paul police believe Joseph Jorgensen, 40, is a person of interest in the death of Fanta, whose remains were found in Coon Rapids storage unit Thursday. The Star reported, which, you know, well, I guess the Star, I don't know too much about the Star. It's the Sun that I can't stand. Jorgensen is also accused of killing 33-year-old Manny Starin, whose remains were discovered in another storage unit in Woodbury in June. Jorgensen was charged on June 30th with second-degree murder in connection with Starin's death. Police began investigating the disappearance of Starin on May 1st after her father reported her missing. So this is something that I just wanted to bring your attention to, that there are, this story will be developing, I'm certain of. And if there's two women in a storage unit in separate areas, it makes me wonder where this man has been and how many more storage units this man may have opened. So this could be developing into a major story. I mean, it is a major story. Two beautiful women are wiped off the face of the earth. He's only getting charged with second-degree murder. Granted, that does hold a sentence of life in prison. But again, two women in two separate storage units. This sounds more premeditated, and it sounds like that this might only be the tip of the iceberg, folks. So I don't know what to take of this case, but I am monitoring it very, very closely. Good morning, sweetie pie. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you. What else do we have? Oh, and the stuff goes on and on and on. And this was really bad. An RSO kidnapped two children. One of them got away. One of them did not. And I'm not going to go into the details of it just yet on this channel, but it is a very scary situation because there's more related to this case than just these two girls. This man is also accused of SAing a 19-year-old, and he is the person of interest in a 24-year-old's death. So this appears to be a very dangerous man. serial in nature. Another scary story that I am monitoring, because I truly believe this is only the tip of the iceberg in this case. We've got 4 victims in a short amount of time. 2 are dead. 2 are dead. A 24-year-old and a 10-year-old. So you might want to be looking out and start to do some reviewing. And his name is Antonio Monroe. And this happened in Illinois. Rockford, Illinois. So if you guys would like to get some more information about this particular case, please do so. Because of we're most likely, depending on how this, I'm going to get some public records requests out on this, and depending on what comes back in from those public records, we'll decide, how much. But I just feel like there's a lot here. So both of those cases, you might want to consider reading up on. And the first one that we were discussing, that person's name was Joseph Jorgensen. So Joseph Jorgensen and Antonio Monroe. And many of you know we've been following and just reporting on. Obviously this case was very, very sad. This was related to Winter Smith, a little 2-year-old girl that was taken from her home by her mother's ex-boyfriend after her mother's ex-boyfriend and her got into a dispute over money. Apparently the mom, in self-defense, stabbed Rashad. Rashad retaliated by stabbing her multiple times and then R-ing her before fleeing the residence. And she was able to flee and call law enforcement, but she left her 2 children behind, obviously for the grave concern she had for her own life. And when she returned, or when law enforcement went over there, her son was there, but her daughter was not. A couple days later, her daughter was found deceased. The community rose up. They rose up lovingly, but they rose up very angry that this little girl lost her life in such a senseless way. And so now the judge has ruled Rashad case has plenty of evidence. And I have to agree, the evidence against him is overwhelming. And so they have enough to move forward. So I thought you're going to hear a little, most likely a little commercial, and then it'll get into the update.
Today, a man accused of several violent crimes sits in a federal courtroom where the case against him could put him behind bars for life. Rashad Trice is accused of kidnapping and killing 2-year-old Winter Smith. This morning, a federal judge decided there is enough evidence to move forward with those charges against Trice. Good evening. I'm Ann Emmerich. David Andrews is off tonight. News 10's Aaron Bowling was in the courtroom in Grand Rapids and tells us what's next in the case.
There aren't cameras allowed inside federal courtrooms, but this morning's hearing could be described as somber. Trice himself was often seen with his head down as the judge pointed to evidence, such as text messages, that he says speak for themselves. On Tuesday, a magistrate judge ruled to move forward with charging Trice on the federal level, saying there is plenty of evidence for probable cause. However, the judge himself says he doesn't necessarily agree with his own decision, alluding to the problem of jurisdiction. A legal expert tells News 10.
So they're going to be discussing jurisdictional issues with this being a federal charge as opposed to, I guess, a state charge. So we'll hear about that.
The federal charges could get dismissed due to a lack of jurisdiction.
I think they took their best shot for jurisdiction. I don't think there is really any jurisdiction here.
Swartz believes they're pushing for a federal charge to get the death penalty, a penalty.
So that, you guys, we did discuss that, and I was wondering about that when this came up, because I said, it sounds like the feds are taking this case just for the death penalty aspect of it. And it sounds like that is truly why they went down this avenue. And so now jurisdiction as to whether the federal government has a right to charge him. They don't believe that the jurisdiction is given to that higher court, or that federal court rather.
They can't get with state charges alone. With such a tragic death and crime, Swartz says he's not surprised some want the death penalty, but he still believes it's not an option for this case.
And this is why states should be very cognizant on pulling their death penalties and defunding their police and other things, because here we have another situation where everybody in the community rose up and did not want the death penalty until they do. Until they do. Until somebody does something so depraved that it now justifies the death penalty, and now you don't have it on your books to enforce. These are the issues, and we're seeing them unfold. It's so much easier to speak these things, to get emotions involved in these types of decisions. And then when you're faced with a situation where the whole community feels this man is deserving of the death penalty, that is not what he is going to get. I hope he was a $5 million bond for that kidnapping. They should have. I wouldn't be opposed to for this man $100 million bond. I mean, he is so disgusting to me. Not obviously this man on the screen, but the person that was, that ultimately Rashad Trice is disgusting to me. And but he deserves a defense. He deserves a defense, and God knows what happened. I mean, we do have to realize that there is, mental illness in this world, right? There is mental illness in this world. And apparently that's, justifies killing kids, apparently, to some.
I think that it may have been local police. They have been known to intercede and go to the federal authorities and say, I'm unhappy. This is a death penalty case. We don't have the death penalty. We should have the death penalty.
The judge said a grand jury will meet in the next 3 weeks or so to review the evidence and make their own decision about probable cause for this case. Reporting in Grand Rapids, Aaron Bowling, News 10.
Rashad Trice was arraigned on numerous charges.
So just to let you guys know, I do hope that they are successful. I hope, you never know. You don't know until the arguments are made and how the law is applied in a case like this, especially related to jurisdictional matters. Now, jurisdiction is very, very important. Remember with the Brian Kohberger case, the media coalition took that to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court didn't have jurisdiction to overhear or to see or hear that case. They didn't have the jurisdiction. They didn't say they didn't have standing. They didn't say they didn't have a right to be there. They basically stated that they didn't do what was necessary to have jurisdiction in their court. And the federal government can charge people. I mean, it's not uncommon, and we've heard it in the past where, say, a state court failed in achieving a conviction, and the federal government picked up charges and took them to court. Double jeopardy does not apply from state to federal court. So there is, I've seen it before done, but again, they obviously had jurisdiction in an effort to do that. I don't know why they wouldn't have jurisdiction in this case if they can charge other cases in similar nature in the federal courts. So I think it might just be because of the death penalty, potentially. Maybe that's their argument. I'm unsure. But I'm definitely interested in hearing more about this argument and about this jurisdictional matter. Can a murderer be charged federally? Yes, they can in certain circumstances. And so what they're arguing here is that the certain circumstances necessary for the federal government to charge this man may not be there. The elements for jurisdiction may not be there. They have to establish jurisdiction in the federal court in order to go after were shot. So that's what they're kind of expressing here, is that it appears that there may be no jurisdiction, no different than that media coalition with the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court couldn't rule on the matter because they didn't have proper jurisdiction. Jurisdiction, you have to have in order to proceed in a case. It is a condition that's required to even have the case in that court. So this is a substantial issue. This is a substantial issue, and as you heard, could definitely get this case thrown out of the federal court. Now, people are going to be like, oh my God, is this case going to go away? He's not going to get justice. We're not going to get justice for Winter Smith. That's not the case either. So what would happen in a situation like that is that the state would then pick up the charges and would be running this case. It's just that they will not have the option or the ability to levy death as a sentence for this young man that killed this 2-year-old child. So there's definitely some legal challenges here in this case that are going to be difficult, but don't get too worked up with it. He's not going to walk free, by the federal charges being dropped. That's not going to happen. He's just going to be, the state's just going to have to pick up the charges and carry this to the finish line. So just don't, just relax. It's just going to be worked out. He's not going to be let go. He's not going to walk free. That's not going to happen. This is just a legal strategy that doesn't look like is going to have merit moving forward. So that is where it lies at the moment. And they have merit, but they're not going to have jurisdiction. Let me state that. So it's a little concerning. I don't want to take away the concern, but I also want to bring to light that there is the possibility of that case going away, but a new case will be brought up in the state. Now, this is just kind of a timeline that I thought was very important for people that are following the Winter Smith case, and then we'll move on. And it starts on July 2nd. So around 11:30, Winter was reporting missing after Trice allegedly assaulted Winter's mother in the apartment complex off Jolly Road in Lansing. Trice fled in a stolen car. Winter was not in the home when police arrived. At 2:02 in the morning, just a few hours, an hour and a half or so later, was that an hour and a half? Yeah, I think it's an hour and a half, 2.5 hours later, Michigan police issued an Amber Alert. By 4:45, the St. Clair police spotted the stolen car and tracks Trice down. Trice crashed into a patrol car, and that's what brought that fleeing to an end. 4 p.m. on July 4th announced the search for Winter continues. Wednesday, July 5th, prosecutors announced the charges against Trice, and by 7 p.m., police found Winter's body. So that's kind of the timeline for those, just in a nutshell, of what happened to this beautiful baby girl. Again, it sounds like she was just loved, and this monster couldn't handle it. It seems like Winter's mom was just trying to, raise her children, start a good life. It sounded like she met a violent man, and that violent man she ended up having a kid with. And he ended up trying to kill her and ended up killing her daughter. Domestic violence in this country is really bad. And there's not enough laws to protect everybody. And that's just the reality of it. Is it fair? Of course not. But it's the reality. It's the reality. I also was doing an update on Chad Dorman. You guys remember Chad Dorman? He was the father that was accused of, gunning down his kids and planning it. We learned that he planned it, and he was sitting on his stoop smoking a cigarette as he waited for cops to arrest him. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because I do believe in the criminal justice system. I believe in judges' authorities. And I also believe that sometimes judges overreach and do things without the authority to do, like I see in some respects the Brian Kohberger case. And here is a responsible, at least in my eyes, from what I'm seeing so far, is a judge that is responsible and understands that the public has the right to know and weighs that properly. And so in this case, the judge denies a full gag order. He denies it because he himself understands the needs of the public when it comes to these types of cases. And the only way we get this information out is by our press. And I feel that this judge is balancing that First Amendment and that Sixth Amendment right. So it is one of those things that I just wanted to show you that, not all judges are overreaching in some of their orders as others. And this system, again, not a perfect system, not a fair system, but we have laws because it is our system and it allows the public to be inside it. So I just wanted you guys to see that. But lastly, and actually before I get on to I think Rudy is going to take the bulk of the rest of our commentary. So I did want to get on here and why we're here to begin with. I have made the decision that we are going to Idaho in August. I've made the decision. I know that we all have still a lot of questions with the Idaho 4, including especially the people that believe that Brian Kohberger is innocent. Right? I'm willing to open my mind, open my eyes, open my ears. Not everybody can go to Idaho. Not everybody can go out there and look into stuff. Not everybody can go to certain places. I'm going out there. I'm going out there. I'll get to that. Thank you, JJ. I'm going to put you up on here so I don't forget to talk about it. I feel like sometimes I get on tangents and forget to go back to what I was originally trying to say, yada, yada, yada. So I'll just keep you up there for a second so I don't forget to come back to you. So I thought this would be a great opportunity for my audience, other people's audience, other creators. If you have questions, if you would like me to visit a certain spot, if you would like me to talk to a certain person, if you would like me to get some information or go to a location, now would be the time to start thinking about it, including my audience. My audience is here. You guys have supported me from the very, very beginning. And so what do you want from this trip? Right? What do you want from this trip? Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, Wine. Right? You're coming in here acting like, what did they say on Brian Enton? What did they say on Brian Enton? They said exactly the way I said it, except they said it differently, right? It's lawful. There's nothing that they can do. It's up for public opinion. Watch it or don't watch it. Go and attack her, don't attack her. She didn't lose her channel. So everything that I expressed here yesterday is exactly what was just expressed on the Brian Enton show, except it was packed with a lot of emotion, which I don't do. I'm a very blunt person, so I just tell it like it is. So what came out in that segment that wasn't that we didn't discuss here on the show? It's lawful. It was acquired through public record. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. Some people are totally offended by it. We acknowledge that. There are people out there that would like to preview it. Except people say things in a way that makes them likable, right? So Brian goes out there, and I feel like everybody was well represented in this, right? So Brian went out there on the emotional, talking about what people felt, right? And then he brought the prosecutor on, right? And what did the prosecutor say? There's not really anything we can do. It's public record. It was done lawfully. I mean, there's, I understand the emotional part about it. I'm just, when it comes to this stuff, I look at stuff like this. I understand it's shocking to audience members, but you have to understand, for me as a creator, I look at this stuff all day long. So and I'm sure Brian Enton has had to look at some of this stuff. But again, I feel like it was, I feel, I understand the emotional part of it. I do get it. I get why people are outraged. I think it was kind of skewed a little bit in the reporting, because they didn't explain that this is the only way. They act like it's about money coming from News Nation and a person that probably makes 5 times more than Zab Girl. But either way, I understand the importance of it. But I think what they missed in that reporting is that if there is a group of people like myself that would like to discuss it or preview it, there's no good way to do. There's really not a whole lot, especially if you're trying to get a whole bunch of people. Now, granted, I understand it's an 11-year-old child, and trust me, it's not something. Again, I haven't been put in that situation. I would think that my better judgment probably wouldn't have, posted the images that she posted, and even the state attorney, put in options that maybe would have been more appropriate, like using the diagrams and things of that nature. So I get all of it. Like I said, I don't have a dog in the fight with this argument. Mine was, I know it was going to be an unpopular statement, but I stick to the law aspect of it, and the law is not emotional, and everything that she did was legal. Now, it's up for the audience, it's up for the public if they want to show outrage to show that, and that's their right. So I think we discussed that fairly well on this show. And again, I never stuck up for Zab. I just spoke on what people weren't going to tell you. And at the end of the day, she did nothing. She did, in many eyes, maybe morally wrong, like I had stated, but she did nothing lawfully wrong. And I think that was also stated in that segment that Brian Enton did. But I'm glad, I'm proud of Brian. Brian goes and he has a great connection with his audience. He's a little more emotional in stuff in some of these, and this really moved him. Like, he was very upset that she did this, and his and everybody else's frustration or upset or anger over that is legit and viable. I never discredited those things, but my stance will be the same. Again, it's your responsibility what you consume as an audience. So beat me up, run away. I really, it's again, I have no dog in the fight. I speak from a different perspective than Brian did. But I feel like both sides. I think he well represented the people that are just disgusted and just can't believe it. And, there's a medical side and a science side and a, information side that is a little different than that emotional side. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for that. I feel bad for what this family is going through. There's nothing, I didn't do it. You can come here all day long and try to beat me up. I didn't do it. So, I don't know how you want me to address it, but you're trying to turn something around like I did something. I didn't. I commented on it and talked to my audience about the legality of it. And that was confirmed by Brian Enton's story. Enough said. So I understand there are people that are just absolutely disgusted with that. I get it. But again, people have the right to consume what they choose to consume. There's a lot of paid stuff that people pay for on the internet that absolutely is total immoral to me. Totally immoral to me. Disgusting to me, right? So, I am all about that hypocrisy thing too. Just saying. So, it is what it is. She has to pay for it publicly. If I did something like that, I would have to pay for it publicly. That's and like I said, that is the job of the audience. Again, being very upfront and truthful about the situation. Still don't have a dog in the fight, just to let the haters know. Still don't have a dog in the fight. So we are going to go to Idaho. So I'm going, let me put it to my audience. Should I open the phones or should I open the panel? Would you guys like to tell me maybe some of your concerns with the Brian Kohberger case, right? So you have concerns, maybe with some information in the, and that's yours. Thanks for letting me know. Hold on here. There was nothing to gain by showing those photos. Disgusting. And again, like I said, there is an element. Let me just explain this. I understand that you may not have a channel. You may not cover true crime. And there's a lot of people that cover true crime without looking at images. When Kylie Rodney was found and we realized she drowned, do you know how many times I've gone online and looked at real people drowning on video to learn about that? And whether that's immoral, every news person, everybody that has done this, people that put these videos, I mean, think about these gory movies you watch. Where do you think they know where the blood splatter is supposed to be? Because they previewed those images. They previewed real images. And I don't want to get on an argument or, get in a place where I'm discontinuing somebody's feelings or emotions over this. But again, the audience has an appetite to consume a lot of gory stuff. And for some, they don't, I never watched Children of the Corn, right? But it's a movie, it's fictional. And we have to take that into consideration. And this boy was real. And what happened to him was horrible. So don't think I don't understand the emotions. Even you, just some guy, I understand your outrage. But again, there are people like me that look at those images. And would I look at his? I don't know if I would have went to a case that I was covering, because even with like Kylie Rodney and seeing, all of the images that I saw with drowning victims and things like that were images from, probably, 20 or 30 years ago. They weren't they were from educational, like schools or law enforcement type of educational videos, but they're online. They are online. And so we do have graphic images, unobstructed images online for educational purposes, for law enforcement purposes, and for all those things. And so I don't know. I guess my question is, was it the images itself? Was it because he was an 11-year-old boy? Or was it because it was behind the paid wall? I mean, those are legitimate questions when it comes to this. Those, in all fairness, are legitimate questions. What was the offensive? Because if it was just the images of graphic images, I'm sorry, but those are available in many cases online. I watched on Twitter the other day a man physically being gunned down. That was disturbing for me. Gunned down, no blurs, no nothing. Like literally shot 5 or 6 times, and people were standing around recording it, and it was put up on Twitter. Now, granted, they said this is graphic images. Do you really want to see it? And you have to push a button to see it. But holy smokes, it was absolutely unobstructed. So this is where my, where I just want to be. Again, I don't have a dog in the fight. It wasn't me that did this. I mean, you guys may want to come over here with your pitchforks and act like it's me, but in all fairness, I was just discussing the law, and I said it was an unpopular stance, and the law is the law. And unfortunately, I mean, like the prosecutor said, maybe we need to change the laws. Oh, okay. Well, then that's what needs to happen. If this is ultra disturbing to the world, then it's not it's the responsibility of you expressing your voice, which many of you did. You got Brian Enton's attention, right? You did what you're supposed to do in a situation like this. But at the end of the day, it wasn't unlawful. There's no legal consequence that can come of it. None. And so maybe this would be great, like even the hate channels. This might be a great opportunity for you guys to kind of come together and have your voice be heard. Maybe start working on your own legislation so stuff like this doesn't happen. This would be great. This would be great. But I just want to make sure that you know that we talked about the legal aspect of it. We hinted on the moral. We even brought a couple people up, like Dumpling's like, you know, I understand it's legal, but you know, I think we were very balanced on the topic. I think we were very balanced on the topic. So at the end of the day, you know, for those that are offended, they're offended, and they rose up and had their voice heard. But now it's not just there for them. If you guys really want effective change, then pull your resources together and go out there and start working with your politicians and legislate for change. That's the best thing you can do. It really is. My issue is that it was a minor child who was brutally murdered. And like I said, I get it. I understand. Trust me. When it comes to this stuff, when it comes to the law and stuff like that, I don't have a lot of emotion, but don't think I'm not an emotional person. I mean, personally, you guys know that this does bother me. Okay. I didn't go and do record requests for it. It's in my state. The autopsy's in my state. I didn't do it. I understand, but you know, I'm one of those people that kind of, once a case is over, it's kind of over for me. You know, if new information comes about, we'll do it. But I'm not really one that goes and, you know, pulls those, you know, public records after the fact. I've never really done that. Occasionally, maybe I'll do a request for, you know, like a telephone call or something like that. So, I mean, I do understand the outrage, but again, it was still lawful. And if people are that outraged about it, you know, take it a step further. I really do hope you do. I mean, I advocate for your voice being heard all the time. Everybody's, not just mine, not whether it agrees with me, but if this obviously has offended a lot of people. Take that and put that into action. It's now time for you guys to advocate. You found something that really bothers you. You have an opportunity to make effective change. It's called activism. Be an activist. It's not that hard. You find something you're passionate about, and you go affect change. This is something a lot of people are passionate about. Lots of people passionate about this item. You know, both good and bad. Both good and bad. Yeah. But again, everybody's, you know, I think, don't you feel, just put a 1 in the box. For those that are absolutely opposed with Zab Girl's behavior and everything like that, do you feel that you were well represented by Brian Enton's segment? Put a 1 in the chat if you feel that he embodied your outrage. Put a 1 in the chat. If you felt that he skimped on it, that, you know, he didn't come down hard enough, put a 2 in the chat. I'm just interested. Because again, people may want to twist this as me having a dog in the fight. I don't know Zab Girl. I spoke my piece. Okay, so people feel like that Brian, you know, came to their call. He heard their voices, and he took action and brought awareness to it. He brought awareness to the situation. It effectively worked, right? So Zab Girl, from my understanding, her Patreon account is no longer. Now, she still has her YouTube account, but you know what? In a situation like this, you know, nobody will be happy. You know, the family has to deal with the fact that they have things that are on the internet that shouldn't be. And Zab Girl lost, some money because of it. So, you know, if this was a legal negotiation, it sounds like both parties which it's kind of sad to even put it in that because, you know, it's not, Gannon's family's already lost so much. I get that. But again, you got to analyze these things. But don't think that one way or another, I look at the law. Is it legal? Is it lawful? Again, it's not something I did. Make sure, because everybody out there on these hate channels somehow turn it around like it was on my show, right? It's on my show. Don't worry. Like I said to Zab Girl, they'll find something to be angry about in a couple weeks, and most likely it'll be me. So it is what it is, right? It's what it's been for the last 2 years. You know, it's one of those things where it happens so often now that it's no longer effective, right? Think about it. People are so angry on YouTube all the time that when they really need to be angry, it falls on a lot of deaf ears, in my opinion, because they're angry and outraged literally every single day of their life. If they tone that outrage down just a little bit and only got really vocal when it really mattered, I feel like their voices would carry so much more weight, just in my opinion. Unpopular viewpoints, right? Not scared to attack those unpopular viewpoints. So it's not, I don't know what to say. You know, people are outraged. People have a right to be outraged. Other people had a right to preview it if they so chose. I mean, they are adults. There's many things out there that's bought and paid for online that absolutely disturbed me, more so than this. And nobody does anything about those things. Nobody. So, you know, again, law, hypocrisy. Do I think it was fair? In my personal opinion, I feel bad for the family. That's my personal opinion, not my professional opinion. So getting on with Rudy Farias, right? We all heard that he gave an interview. Grizzy Hood News released it in 2 parts. Apparently, she wasn't the only one in the room. There was another organization, Fox 26, that also was in the room and did this, but they put it out all in one video. So I thought the full video would probably be... Nani, she has her reasoning on her page. Yes, I did hear that there was a just for those that are interested, that there is a statement that Zab Girl put out. I personally haven't read it, other than, you know, that little segment in the news clip that Brian Enton did. Other than that, I didn't review it. I didn't, you know, read it or anything. Like I said, I don't follow Zab Girl. I'm not, you know, I don't watch her. I don't get any information from her for this channel or any type of research that I do. So, you know, it's just legally, I just wanted to prepare you guys. There's nothing that can be done now. It is what it is. So I hope the people that are, you know, highly offended by this consider, you know, going forward with working with their politicians to get legislation for something like this. In part, I agree. Well, here's my issue. Like, I'm looking at both sides of this. I'm trying to look at and balance it, you know, the emotional side with the lawful side. And they do have the ability to restrict some things. But the way the law works is when it's a public trial, it's hard because even a lot of the sealed documents, you know, the stuff that they seal through the court case, there are some things that are sealed for confidentiality reason. Maybe they can, you know, do something by way of confidentiality that would help keep that under seal. But the way I'm looking at it, it's like, you know, even the stuff that's like the non-dissemination order that we're dealing with Brian Kohberger's case, once the case is over, those are lifted. So I'm looking at this, like, I'm trying to figure out how, this is where politicians are going to have their biggest hurdle when trying to construct law to prevent something like this from happening in the future. It's because they have to also change it's not just changing this law and limiting this, because the rules of procedure in criminal and civil cases also have to be altered and or modified to adjust to this new legislation. So it's going to be very interesting if they do get to that point, how the wording is going to be crafted because of how the law is worded and how the law has been worded for many years. So there are going to be some hurdles, but I still think that if this is what the public truly wants, they never want to have this, to see this again. They don't want anybody ever getting a hold of these types of things. Then they need to rise up and start working with their politicians so that does not happen. But I do see that there's going to be a lot of issues with that because of the amount of work and laws that have to be changed before they can even get to change that. The way I'm kind of reviewing it, but who knows? Who knows? But there are going to be challenges. Either way, again, I advocate for activists. So if this is something that's truly appalling and you never want it to happen again, don't just stop here. Continue the fight going. Make a change. Nobody's going to fight harder than you on a cause that you are drawn into. Nobody will. Sean says, I was at my grandson's graduation yesterday. It was our silver wedding anniversary. Well, congratulations, Sean. That is so sweet. I love it. I love it. You've had a lot of good stuff going on this year. So congratulations. I'm sure much needed, right? Much needed. Much needed. So getting on to the Rudy Farias. Oh, wait, there was one thing. What was it, JJ? I told you I was going to go back to it, and I ended up putting somebody else's comment up here. Hold on. Let me see what I remember. I was going to go back to one of your questions, and I do that all the time. I get sidetracked and I forget to go back. So I don't want to do that. Oh, is that the other person? I remember because I didn't have it. Well, I knew that the state attorney was talking about another YouTuber out there, and I'm like, there's another one. It's not a laughing matter, but just, you know, I don't know if we can even bring light to it. It's such important, anyways. But anyways, I heard him say, yeah, I heard her and another YouTuber. I heard him say that, and I'm thinking, who was the other YouTuber? Because I had only heard about Sad Girl. I had no earthly idea that there was another one that got a hold of this stuff as well. Florida's a stickler for public record laws, and it's my understanding. I didn't know this. Didn't even put the dots together that the autopsy was done here in Florida, and so you know, Florida is a real stickler on public record laws, and so it's, from what I understand, like we give, if it's public record, it's freely given in our state. It's freely given. I don't know if they will modify that, honestly, but it's freely given. So I guess that's how they were able to acquire this stuff, because our public record laws are strict. You know, the people here in the state of Florida work for the people, and we're boss. So we come in and say, hey, we want this. If it meets within the guidelines, then it's released, no questions asked. So again, if there's some activists in Florida, you know, maybe getting with our legislature here and working on legislation would probably bode well, at least with your cause, you know. And if you, even though I probably won't be part of the drumbeat, I mean, I am an activist and I am an advocate. So if you don't know how to do it, even if it's for a cause I don't believe in, and you would like some help on who to get a hold of, again, I believe in this work, and I'm happy to help anybody that wants to advocate for the cause, even if it's a cause that I don't agree with, because I believe in the activism, I believe in the avocation, and I believe in having your voice heard, and I believe in that more paramount than to my wants and needs, because I truly believe that is America. And if that's what I truly believe in, whether I believe in a cause or not, I'm definitely going to help somebody if they're wanting to achieve something. So if you don't know how to be an activist, you don't know how to advocate for a cause, even if it's a cause I just don't believe in, I'm going to help you. I will give you to the people that would be most impactful for you and your cause, because I believe in the work itself. first and foremost. So just an FYI, just an FYI. But don't send somebody that I don't like to ask for that, right? They're probably going to click that and say, oh, she's going to help us. You will. So send one of your mods. If you're an a-hole, send one of your nice mods to me, and I'll help them to help you. But don't come over. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. But I will help. I will help. So yeah. So don't ever think that I'm one. I believe in the way I believe, but at the end of the day, the action, I do believe in that as well. So no matter what people say about me, I do have integrity, and I do love to help people at the end of the day. That's what I do. How many people, by a show of hands, by a show of ones? Should we do A's and B's now? Maybe gold stars. Should we do a gold star? How many got to see Rudy Farias's interview, the most recent interview? Yeah, I know. I love it too, Jennifer. Thank you, by the way. How many of you guys got to see Rudy's interview? By show ones. I want to see it, because the next question is, okay, so we got a few people. I'll wait for a few more. Oh, the Coburger. Thank you, JJ. Thank you, JJ. Okay. I'm going to star you. I'm starring you right now, so I don't lose you again. So you're starred. That was our notification to check the docket. We'll check it in just a second. Okay, so a few people. Now you're going to watch it. For the people that haven't watched it, you're going to watch it. We're going to watch it here in just a few moments. We're going to get to JJ's original question about the stay, and then we're going to watch the Rudy interview. For those that watched this interview, did your mind with, we're going to do a thumbs up, the thumb, right? For thumb up or thumb down, okay? Thumb up or thumb down. For those that watched this interview, did it change your perception of Rudy? For those that watched the interview that was released, with a thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, so thank you, Gongs. Okay. So it didn't change. So Gongs is saying it didn't change their perception of Rudy. A few people are saying it did change their perception of Rudy. Okay, I appreciate the honesty, guys. There's no right or wrong answers here. I just need to gauge my audience. So we kind of got a little bit of mixed. My opinion changed. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, let me get to JJ's question about the stay. It is my understanding, and we'll review it after we're done with the Rudy stuff, because I'm going to be here for a little bit. It's Wednesday. If we go over our time and you guys want to stay and learn, then we'll continue to go down it. But it's my understanding the way, and I'm hoping I'm answering your question, so you can rewrite your question, JJ, if I'm not. My understanding is the stay is not the stay of a case. It's not a full stay. It's only the stay of the speedy trial. But it also sounds like the judge gave them, because they're going to be getting the transcript. Geez, it's going to be hard, because I think they're getting the transcript on July 21st, and they have to provide their alibi by July 24th. So it's going to be tough. And she's going to have to also try to challenge the jury in that grand jury if they're going to go for a full stay, because the judge basically said that it was premature for them to be asking for this right away. And I know what she was trying to do. She was trying to stop the clock so that alibi. And like I said, if she would have gotten that stay, a full stay, whether she was successful in that challenging of the indictment or not, she already won. because that's what she wants to do is delay, delay, delay. And this is part of that delay strategy. So let me just see if you wrote any other questions down here, JJ. So does it mean more time? Not on any of their, so it means more time on when they're lawfully required to have the trial. So without waiving speedy trial, you have to have a trial within 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 180 days from the time of arrest or arraignment to the time of the trial. You have 180 days for your speedy trial right. So it gave them more time on that clock. So now that has been stayed. So the time stopped the day that order went. So that 180 days stopped. So now they're not pushed against the clock to have the trial. So they're not waiving their speedy rights, but they're pausing them. So that's really the only place they gain time. Everything else, it doesn't apply to. It only applies to that speedy trial clock and the speedy trial clock alone. So I hope, yeah. Oh, good, good. Okay. So I'm glad that was explained. So time, so this time doesn't count as part of, yeah, as part of the 180 or whatever days it is, right? It'll stop that dead in its tracks. So whatever day that order is, whatever number that day is. Now, granted, I could be completely off on days. Don't hone in on the actual day, but say they're at day 30, right? So their speedy their speedy trial clock stopped at day 30, preserving that additional 150 days. That's all it preserved. Now, granted, we're not at 30 days on that clock. So, but that was the easiest way for me to explain it, using round numbers. I don't know what the numbers are, but yeah, that's kind of how it goes. So that's the only clock it stopped. So that means that already they're not going to be required at this point to hit that October 2nd deadline for trial. Remember that October 2nd was based upon right outside their speedy trial deadline when she said it. So now that date there for trial, you can bet your bottom dollar is 100% going to move. Like we knew it was going to move anyways. We know they're not going to be ready for trial by October 2nd, regardless. We know that. But now for the sake of the legal process, they have preserved that speedy trial clock. So now they do have a guaranteed extension on trials. So it was a win for Ann C. Taylor. This was a win. This was a check in the right box for the defense team. This was definitely a check in the box for the defense team. So they're doing good. He's being well represented, guys. He's being well represented. I found it offensive. I found it very offensive, though, that we're saddled. We're already saddled with his defense. We're already saddled with his experts. We're already saddled with 3 high-priced attorneys on his team, even though he's indigent. And I have never seen a defendant get this high-powered defense in my life, being a indigent person. But I digress on that fact. But they have almost an unlimited tap to experts, and then they tell us that Brian Kohberger's team can't afford to pay for the transcript. So Latah County has to pony up the money for that. But who really cares at the end of the day? Because they're paying for the entire trial to begin with. Let's be honest, right? The state of Idaho and Latah County is paying for the entire trial. Brian Kohberger's defense, anything related to Brian Kohberger, their job, everything, it's all being paid for by the taxpayers. So it really is an accounting issue. That's all it is. It's just moving it from one person's books to the other. We're paying for all of it. So I know a lot of people are putting emphasis on us having to pay for, but we're paying for everything anyways. We're paying for everything anyways. They are public defenders, Mike. All three of these high-powered attorneys are public defenders. That's what's bizarre to us. You know, most people get a public defender. He gets 3 and an unlimited tap to experts and expert testimony. It's just like, it's just raining money over there in Latah County. It's just raining money. It really is. It's just raining money over in Latah County for Brian Kohberger. They need to reel that in. I mean, this no expense paid. Like, Brian has an opportunity. If he is, they're required to give him an honest defense, a hard work defense, an aggressive defense. That's what they're not required to have 3 attorneys and 5 expert attorney witnesses. Like, what? OJ had to spend millions of dollars for his defense like that, and Brian is freely given his. And my question has always been, how many other Idaho residents charged with a capital crime, one that they can seek the DP, get DP on, and not be represented that well? Because that, to me, is unfair to all those other people that are facing capital crimes and don't get this lofty defense that's provided to Brian Kohberger. I think that's unfair. I think that's unfair. He's deserving of a proper defense. But he's an indigent individual. He's an indigent individual. I guarantee if the shoe was on the other foot, I wouldn't have that kind of representation. You wouldn't have that kind of representation. Do you think that's fair? Life's not fair. Life is not fair. Okay, truly getting on to Rudy's interview. I just want to warn the audience that hasn't watched this yet. I don't know. Let's watch it. I don't want to spoil your perspective of it. I want you guys to watch it.
My mentality straight and honest and true, and just spread positivity and kindness,
So the world thought you were missing for 8 years. Where were you? Where have you been?
Just at home, just stuck at home. If somebody would come over, my mom would just tell me, stay in the room, keep the door locked, don't let them in, don't make any sounds, don't do anything,
Tell us about what it was like living there. Were you allowed to leave the room? Was she holding you there against your will?
She never locked me in or, handcuffed me or anything. Mom would just tell me, stay in the room.
Sorry. Remember, we did discuss that. Remember, we talked about, like I said, that there's a lot of people saying that he was locked away and all this other stuff. And I said, well, based upon what the neighbors had stated, that wasn't necessarily the case. Okay, okay, JJ, take care.
Room, keep the door locked, don't let them in, don't make any sounds, don't do anything,
Tell us about what it was like living there. Were you allowed to leave the room? Was she holding you there against your will?
She never locked me in or, handcuffed me or anything like that. I had free will to leave. It just felt like brainwashing, honestly. It just kept confusing me, just the way, she would manipulate me into saying oh, you're going to get arrested because you have a speeding ticket or something, something minor, something innocent. And then
a speeding ticket. I thought it was because he ran away. So that statement was a little odd for me to hear him say, because you would think that he would have used the analogy of him running away, because that's what we had all heard. So I was a little curious about the whole speeding ticket thing, but it was just one thing that kind of was just for me being analytical and analyzing this, it seemed off for me.
and then it would just kind of escalate into just people just, sorry.
You're good.
Which is,
Take your time.
yeah, it just escalated from there, from, just wanting to get away from home, just be free, live my own life, arguing all the time. And then we eventually just went into she locked me in there pretty much mentally, just that she was my only parent. She was the only person I really had besides my brother.
So it does get a little emotional here, and I just want to let people know that if this is something that may bother them deeply, if you've dealt with situations like this might be more emotional than maybe you should put yourself through. So if that's the case, we would definitely understand if you can't listen to this. So I just wanted to put that out before we got too far into this interview.
So when I lost my brother, I didn't have anybody to teach me how to live, how to have confidence or trust in myself or anything, So I just depended on my mom all my life.
What had you been doing for those 8 years?
Just trying to study the best I can online, understand how the world works, understand different cultures, different religions, different everything. Because
I think the one thing that surprised me with this interview is how well he spoke. I think when we were listening to reports online, on Google, people were, when they were talking about his mental disabilities, potential mental disabilities, I don't know really what I was expecting from Rudy, but I have to say, the way he is expressing himself and speaking and how well he's speaking, I think that was surprising to me. I don't know really, and I don't know how to express it because I don't know what I was expecting from him, or expecting how he would sound, or expecting how he would articulate his sentences and his conversation. But I think it took me by surprise seeing how well articulated he was in this interview. A little trippy, but he spoke well, and I don't know what I was really expecting, but I wasn't expecting him to be so well spoken, I guess is it, and maybe that's my ignorance, maybe that's my not understanding, all different type of mental disabilities or something like that. But I guess I was just expecting almost a childlike person, I guess is what maybe mentally I was expecting. And then to hear he is a young man, and he speaks like a young man. I guess that was my shock in at the beginning. But let's continue.
My life, I just believe that we should stop putting labels on everything and just understand the communities and the prosperity and the growth and the positivity. Because
and I had a problem with let's not put labels on things. That I know we're going to be picking apart this interview a little bit, but I was a little, I don't know what I thought about that. Let's not put labels on things. I guess my question, and I wish, and we need, obviously they let him speak, and then they asked him some question. They let him speak when they asked him questions, but they do ask a lot of questions here. But I think my question would have been like, what labels is he referring to? I'd like to know those labels that he's referring to. So let me there's
just too much fights in the prosperity and the growth and the positivity, because there's just too much fighting. There's too much anger. There's too much depression and mental health problems in the world.
And he, and I get that. And so it sounds like him, kind of reading through the lines for me, and again, this is not what's being said by him. It sounds, well, I guess it is kind of being said by him. It sounds like they're, this was okay for a while, and then there just started being a lot of animosity in his house, a lot of fighting back and forth, because as he's describing, he wants his own life. And, I feel like even the more I hear this, the more I still believe in the Stockholms, because, you know, he's talking about not putting labels on things. And I really think that's related to the relationship he had with his mother, not the mom son type of relationship that I'm referring to, the other relationship that we're hearing about. And I think because again, Stockholm syndrome is really, it's a baffling illness because it makes you almost sympathetic to the that you went through. You're almost justifying that person's causation and reasoning for perpetrating that abuse on you. And I'm glad he brought up Stockholm syndrome, because we've been talking about Stockholm syndrome for several days, because I truly believe, I mean, when you take all the noise out of this case and you listen to the people that have the facts, like the neighbors, and I was listening to them talking about how he came over, and so I realized very early on he wasn't locked in a house like many were trying to allege in some of their reporting, that he was actually free and willing to move around, but he had obviously this immense emotion and moral issue with what was now transpiring or has been transpiring, and he has just had enough, and he's still sympathetic to the person that perpetrated this abuse upon him. That's classic Stockholm syndrome, in my opinion. And that's why I brought it up. I've only seen very rare cases of Stockholm syndrome, but I'm aware of it. And I'm glad to hear that he is acknowledging that this could be potential for him.
Yeah, we just need to spread more positivity, because all of it, everything around us, it's an algorithm that they control through the social media and through the colors and just everything,
See, he starts getting a little trippy here, and this might be partly because of maybe some of the drugs he was on potentially. I don't know, but he's all about kind of peace on earth, and we heard that he was on some psychedelic stuff, and when he starts, I just want to caution people, I don't want people being unkind to him, but he's going to start kind of talking a little trippy here. So I think this kind of bodes into his argument of the abuse and his personality. So I wanted to caution you guys.
If you see something white, like a white wall or a white pillowcase or a white car driving around the place, you'll just understand that, like, you're just trying to have a positive thought, and then you'll look at something white and get sidetracked, and you'll get distracted about stuff and things, and then you'll find stuff like a pink wall or something, or pink whatever, and then you'll just be reminded of somebody trying to help you, prosperity, just somebody loving people. And red, people confuse that for anger or hate, and it's only anger or hate, these type of things, if you look at it that way.
Police said a lot of times that you were 17 when this happened and you're an adult. You spoke a little bit about this, about some of the family trauma you've had growing up. Talk about the fact that although you're an adult, how difficult it was for you to be in this situation and maybe not be able to get out of.
It felt like Stockholm syndrome, honestly. Like, just held against my will mentally, not physically, just constantly like shields them.
I think that expresses I think he expressed Stockholm syndrome. It's basically being jailed mentally. I mean, it's almost a brainwashing, if you will, because you're around that person all the time. It's almost breaking your spirit and it's no different, in my opinion, than the actions of brainwashing someone, right? It's constant. It's always every day, all the time, until you are broken, so they can build you back up to the way they want you to be built. And I really truly believe that, and that's a good expression. He wasn't shackled and chained physically. He was mentally.
Bombarding me with negative thoughts, and like every time I come around her, she just makes me it's like little triggers just pop up, and it's like if I'm trying to get away from my mom, I'll hear a random noise, and it'll be like a little reminder in my head, like, don't do that, don't say this, or just little things like she's putting ideas or thoughts into my head whenever I'm just trying to, just understand the world.
Do you think your mom took advantage of you?
Heavily.
How does that feel?
Heavily.
I can't imagine. You said,
do you think your mom took advantage of you? And he said heavily. Heavily.
your mom's really the only person in your family you have. How was that you felt your own mom took advantage?
It's like I lived in prison. It's like I lived in a jail my whole life. I just wanted to be free. I wanted to have my own job. I just wanted to live my life. I just wanted to just love somebody, have somebody else who would actually love me, because I wasn't sure what love was. I struggled understanding my emotions. I don't know when I'm sad and that I'm sending out negative energy. I don't understand when I'm happy and sending out positive energy. The only way I was understanding how to communicate with people was online, and even then you can't trust everything you see online, because half the time people are just making their own assumptions and spinning what they want, and I can't.
Welcome to social media.
I can't ever speak my truth because everybody wants to assume things.
Can you go into the brainwashing? What would she say to you? Would she say something would happen if you were to leave her home?
It wasn't that. It's just after I left, I started to understand that all of it's just an algorithm. It's literally all an algorithm. If you look at something black, you understand that they understand. If you look at something white, it'll confuse you when you're trying to go in a positive direction. If you look at something red, it'll remind you of love. If you look at green, it'll remind you of, like grounding people that are there for you and stuff,
Did you feel stuck? And what was she doing exactly that kept you hidden?
It's just every time I would try to leave or, try to do things for myself, like I want to go get my own money, I want to go work a different job, I want to do this and that, they would always just come right back around to just don't do that, or it's bad, don't do that, like cops are going to come out, they're going to do this, they're going to arrest you if you're driving a car without a license or this and that. And it's just like,
wouldn't even let him get a license.
Expect me to get a license to drive a car if I can't even go out?
25 years old.
All I do is work 12-hour shifts 7 days a week, and I get $60. Like,
oh my
God! I don't understand how that's.
Did you just hear that? His mother's making him work 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and hands him $60 at the end of the day, or at the end of the week. I can.
Fair.
Why do you think she wanted to keep you hidden?
I don't know. It all started just because I had a speeding ticket. I went like 70 and a 55 trying to go to work. And then when that all started, it's just like I wasn't able to have a life. I was starting to working and growing and, provide for myself. And then after that happened, I couldn't do it.
I think the question everyone has is why your mom would lie and say that you've been missing for 8 years. Did she ever tell you, did you ever ask, Mom, why are we pretending that I'm missing?
And that's the thing, when it comes to the real small details like that, I don't remember. It's like it just blocks it out, like she's blocking it out for me or something. It's like
That is a telltale sign of trauma. When your brain starts blocking memories, and memories that are only less, 8 years old, that is I'm telling you, a very distinct tale of trauma. It means that it's such substantial trauma that your body, your brain has triggered the suppression of that. It's a coping mechanism that our bodies do. Our brains do, to help us get through traumatic events. I just want to put that out there, because when I hear that, that is something that is a checkbox in the right column when you're hearing a story like this and trying to put it together to find out, like, let's be honest, this is a bizarre case. You know, this is something that none of us were expecting to come out of this when we heard the news that a boy that had been missing for 8 years has been found. This was not what we had anticipated. This was not on any of our minds. We were very happy to hear that somebody was found after 8 years. This has taken on a life of its own. It's grown legs and arms, and it's moving all over the place. But when you're hearing about abuses and you're hearing about people losing memories, that is a telltale sign. Now, granted, he could be lying about it, and maybe some out there will say he's lying about that. But I can tell you, based upon my experience, this is something, when you're hearing the types of abuse that he is talking about, you would expect to happen. The loss of memory.
I just want to remember the facts. I just want to understand, who I am and what I'm trying to do, and just try to live my life the way I want to, not how she wants me to.
Were you questioning your mom? Like, Mom, why am I doing this?
I would always ask her stuff like, when am I going to get a job? When am I going to have my own car? When am I going to be able to make my own decisions? When am I going to be able to just go out and be free? Like, why can't we just go to the police station? Why can't I just get a lawyer? Why can't I just do that? And she's like, oh, you can't get a lawyer because it's too much money. We can't do that because it's too much money. Everything was always just money.
If you had to guess why she was doing this, was she making money from you being missing, as far as you know?
I don't know. I think somebody at one point mentioned something about an original GoFundMe page. And then my mom wanted to say something about, like, one of my aunts or something was like stole all the sodas or something. But meanwhile, where's all the money that they raised, and where did that go to helping find me?
So we have video. We actually, Fox 26, we interviewed your mother while you were in the hospital 10 years ago in 2012. What happened? Why were you in the hospital? And I guess it was mentioned to our reporter at the time that you had cancer.
I had a tumor on my heel at one point, but that was irrelevant. Originally, I think all that had started because she...
So does that mean that scar that they were showing us on the bottom of his foot, remember when this first was breaking, they were saying how malnutritioned he was, how he was in poor condition, how his feet were torn up, how he had scars on the bottom of his feet. Remember those statements made? Now we're learning that he was in the hospital in 2012 to take cancer off the bottom of his foot, which would explain a scar, potentially, perhaps.
She wanted me to fake taking some, like, a bottle of Tylenol or like Aleve PM or something, sleeping pills. And then she wanted to fake me going to the hospital, and she pretty much just forced me to go into the ER and be like, hey, act like you're sick and you're overdosing. And
holy moly. See, I was watching, what's her name? Christina Randall? And she was talking about Munchausen's by proxy. And I thought, wow, how odd for her to bring that up. She brought up Stockholm syndrome, but then she brought up Munchausen by proxy. And I was thinking when I was listening to her reporting, why would she say Munchausen's by proxy? That doesn't even bode with the information that we know of this case. That is what he just described there is classic Munchausen's by proxy, something to get you attention. You're injuring somebody else taking sleeping pills. If he took a bottle of sleeping pills, that could kill him. That is a classic definition, but typically Munchausen by proxy is secret. The person that is falling ill doesn't know that the person is trying to make them sick for the attention to show that they are taking care of their child. So, I mean, he's describing some actions related to Munchausen by proxy, but I don't know if that is really the medical definition that would be used because he was aware that he needed to be an active participant. So this lady is definitely screwed up. And to manipulate him to doing something that may have caused irreparable harm is, well, everything she's done has caused irreparable harm. But this lady's sick.
This was before you were missing.
Yes, sir.
Why? Why was this happening?
I don't even remember. I think it was something to do with school. I was depressed and I was cutting my wrist when I was, getting sad. I didn't have an idea how to, understand my emotions. It was after my brother passed away. I didn't know how to deal with pain and depression. So I would just literally just rip a Coke can open and just run it on my wrist like a cheese grater just to feel something.
Your brother was a big part of your life, the
Yes.
one who passed away. Talk to us about that. And was that a major part in this, how you were feeling with depending on your mom?
Yes, ma'am. He would take care of me. He would take me to and from school. He would pick me up. He would get me McDonald's. He just say little jokes and stuff. And after he had passed away, I just wasn't able to, love myself or anything anymore. I wasn't able
broken.
to have somebody like a father figure. He was my brother, but I never had a dad. I only had stepdads. I didn't know how to.
Stepdads, plural. He's never had his father, so his father wasn't really a part of his life. He had his brother, his older brother, which is the one that got killed in the motorcycle accident that left him that insurance policy from our understanding. Brittany Blue Eyes says she needs to go to jail. This is not right. She absolutely does need to go to jail. Unfortunately, I don't think she's going to be held accountable for the things that she truly should be held accountable for. Because, the fraud, I hope she gets the book thrown at her on the fraud alone. She defrauded many people, hundreds of people. That can't go without accountability. And I don't care if it was only $50. You scammed unwitting people out of money. That you cannot do. So I do believe that law enforcement is actually doing the proper investigation, but I don't know if she's going to ever be held accountable for the SA and other abuses perpetrated upon Rudy. I really don't. I think their best chance is to get her on the fraud and other stuff. But unfortunately, even they need to prove that this man has mental and physical disabilities. And if they can prove that, they can get her on negligence or abuse of a disabled person. I don't think that's what he said, Sharon. We're going to keep getting through it. So far, he hasn't said that yet, and actually has kind of implied that there is a label on them, and so there is. We haven't gotten that far yet. I don't think he said that there's no SA. I think he was very cognizant how he danced around the question. But let's just keep listening. I'll let the audience kind of make up their own mind, and Sharon, we can address that after we hear the whole thing. Maybe bring that question up again, and we can discuss what we heard.
Grow up. I didn't know what I was doing as I was growing up. I didn't understand how to take care of myself, how to wash myself, how to make doctor's appointments, how to do anything, because I never had a chance.
What would you have to say to police that say, well, he was an adult?
What do you mean?
It seems like in this case, you didn't have the support there that you needed. And police seem so focused on your age that you were 17, which is an adult in Texas. But can you talk about the fact that, yes, you were an adult, but the mindset that you've been in?
Yeah, it was just like a constant brainwashing, like a Stockholm type of syndrome where it's just, you just fall in love with your captive and just want to take care of them, do this and that, it would just constantly just be me trying to help and just take care of my mom, do whatever she needs because I cared about her and she's the only person I had.
Did your mom, over this last 8 years, did she say anything or like, is there anything that sticks out in your mind that that bothers you, or that you remember conversations with her that
Just, I don't know. I used to have to sleep in her bed sometimes. I don't remember why, just like next to her. It wouldn't be anything sexual or anything like that. I wouldn't lie about that because there's plenty of people that need honest truths when it comes.
So he is saying, so that was stating that nothing sexual.
Comes to those things, that's just out there.
Let's go
I
back
have
to
to
listen to
sleep
that.
in their bed sometimes. I don't remember why.
sticks out in your mind that bothers you, or that you remember conversations with her that
Just, I don't know. I used to have to sleep in her bed sometimes. I don't remember why, just like next to her. It wouldn't be anything sexual or anything like that. I wouldn't lie about that because there's
Now that kind of gives me a little pause for concern there, but let's just keep listening.
plenty of people that need honest truths when it comes to those things. That just muddies the water to lie about those type of things. That's where I said the media, they like to twist my words and confuse things. I never said anything bad about her in that regard, but
He's saying he didn't say anything with her in that regard. So this is causing some issues. I'd have to say that this statement may cause some issues. Let's keep listening.
just boundaries she would push or make me uncomfortable, and I would say stop, and she's like, well, why, what did I do? I didn't do anything wrong, and then I would just be like, okay, you didn't do anything.
Pushing boundaries, that's a lot of what Quinnell did say. He's talking about these boundaries being pushed, but he's not willing to I don't know how, like, he's acknowledging some of the stuff Quinnell said and trying to step back from the essay allegations. Let's just keep listening.
Anything wrong, and just leave it at that. Just push my boundaries if you want, do whatever you had to do. And I would just be like a people pleaser, but I didn't have people to please, just my mom. I didn't have.
Is it possible? We're all sitting here listening to this, and we all heard Quinnell, because we played both statements from Quinnell on this channel. And I told you that I don't believe that there is any reason for Quinnell to be deceptive. And I'm hearing this boy say some of the things that Quinnell said. Is it possible that now that he had some time to compose himself, I'm talking about Rudy here, now that he had time to compose himself, now he had time to talk to law enforcement a little bit, is it possible that law enforcement said, look, this is going to cause us some major problems with you continuing these allegations. We're going to have a hard time proving these things, and all it's going to do is cause you problems in the future. That may be very much what that conversation looks like. We're not going to be able to go after her for these essay allegations. You were an adult, unless other information comes forward. Do you really want the public to know that you slept with your mother? Could those conversations be happening? I mean, he is saying he's hitting some boxes here, right? Rudy's hitting some boxes here, and he's saying some statements that he's trying. It almost seems, and it could bode with that whole Stockholm syndrome too, if those conversations are not what he was having with law enforcement. But I almost feel that there's, I believe Quinnell. I'm sorry. Even in faced with this interview. Or I at least believe that this young man told Quinnell those allegations, at minimum. I don't see any reason why Quinnell would lie. I really don't. And we know that law enforcement did not take too kind to him bringing that public. And we know that it is probable that Rudy has had contact with law enforcement since Quinnell came forward. And I would believe it would be that law enforcement element that would have swayed his stance of what he said, in my opinion. This may all be true, and Quinnell may be a big old fat liar, right? Possible. I just don't believe it. But it is possible. And we have to look at that. Just because I don't believe it, just because it's in my brain, doesn't make it so, right? Doesn't make it so.
Have anybody to take care of or, you know, help understand me. It was just her all the time, my mom.
How hard has it been right now? I know that this is the only person you feel like you have had, and now that you're separated, how hard is it to make that distinction right now? Do you want to talk to her?
No, not really. I don't want any contact with her at all. I just want to live my life away from her.
He wants no contact with his mother whatsoever. A man that has gotten every bit of his nurturing. He's telling you that, you know, she took care of him, that he is all he knows. Right? But now he doesn't want anything to do with her. But there was no SA involved in that household. There was no abuse in that household. There was no neglect in that household. I don't believe it. I really don't.
She can do whatever she wants. I don't care. I just want to live my life. You know, I want to have a family, a job, a car, just a house. I just want to live my life.
Actually, let me get this. Theo Gates. No, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a content creator. There's a big difference. Big difference. Big difference. I use YouTube as a platform. That's it. Definitely wouldn't sell my soul for it.
I just want to be happy. I don't want to keep going back to those negative thoughts she always has on me. I'm so tired of them.
Aw, thank you, baby. That's
just constant negativity around that house, and I hate it. Seems like every time she comes around me, it just fuels negativity into me. Like she's just downloading it into my brain over and over, and I don't like it.
Did she make you when police?
See, and it's the weird stuff like downloading it in my brain and the algorithms of life. Those are kind of bizarre statements for me personally. I'm trying to be as honest with my audience as possible. And maybe other people, it's no big deal about it. But, you know, for me, it is. And since he's an adult, that might be plausible as well. They may have told him, look, we can't go after her for this because if we do, we have to go after you and you are a victim and we can't do that to you. Very possible, Irene. Very possible. Thanks for that perspective. I appreciate that. Because I think some of the people on here are despicable and deplorable. I don't find myself being one of those people that I put there. So yeah, YouTuber is offensive to me because there's a lot of scum on here. And I like to make sure that people understand how, right? It's all about how you perceive yourself, right? I identify as a content creator. Okay. So please. Anyways, yes, I think YouTube is anyways, right? Anyways, we all know it is a melting pot of some good and some bad, right?
Were there ever times where police would come to your house to check on you? That you recall?
I think at one point.
Did you have interaction with the police, or did your mom make you hide? Like, how were you able to get away? I know police mentioned some fake names. Did you actually speak to the police ever?
Like once or twice. Maybe once when I was driving my mom's car and they pulled us over because, you know, she wasn't feeling good. She had
So now this might be the one incident where they provided the wrong name. I think he's about to express the one that he had the wrong name. He hasn't had a sense of normalcy, in my opinion. Probably, I mean, if you think about it, a very long time. He probably, you know what, now that I'm hearing kind of his life story, it does have that, like, you know, before, because when I cover these stories, and these stories are kind of fluid situations, I'm looking at the meat and potatoes of it. I'm not really looking at the past of this person. I hear a little bit about it. I express it a little bit on here. We know there was some traumatic events in his life, loss of brother, loss of father, but now we're learning that the father really didn't have a whole lot to do with him. He was an illegitimate child. All these different things come up as you're learning about this. So the thoughts of normalcy that I thought he may have had early on in his childhood probably weren't there either. And so I have to agree with you, Shar. I believe that, he has not had a normalcy. He may not be, he might be, have some mental issues, but he seems like he is a bright person that hopefully, because, like I said, when I didn't know what to expect when I started hearing him talk. I guess I was kind of expecting this child in this man body. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the kind of the way it was being painted for me on when I was reading these articles. So I was none the wiser. And then seeing him here like this, I do have to agree. He has a lot of trauma that probably is what's sparring some of the mental issues that he may have, from the trauma he's had as a child growing up. But the good news is he can form sentences. He knows how to read and write. He looks like he would be, you're never going to get rid of the past trauma, but it looks like at least he's going to have an opportunity for some type of normalcy. You're right. It doesn't seem like he had a whole lot of normalcy in his life up to this point, but now he's got an opportunity for it. And I think it makes me a little relieved that he's not this child in this man's body, kind of like how I anticipated him to be, so it gives me a sense of happiness to know that, at least he might have a chance. He might have a chance to really have a life and own a life of his own. And I hope he does. And I hope he's not one that ends up being, the abuse, where the situation where the abused becomes the abusers. I hope that, he gets the help he needs so it doesn't happen. Oh, Julie, thank you for the gift membership. Very sweet. And I haven't been going on the backside of my my viewer activity. And I really do apologize to you guys, because sometimes I forget. I get all off track and everything else and wonder what in the world is going on, right? So I want to shout out again to Ruby Pearl, Glamper True Crime Podcast. Sean gifted 1 Bullhorn Betty membership, and Julie gifted 1 Bullhorn Betty membership. If you received a Bullhorn Betty membership from either one, please be kind and be sure to say thank you. Also, I also want to say, I'm really happy that you guys have been very, very nice in the comments section. I know some of the things that we talk here on the Bullhorn Betty channel and some of the things I say, right, can be controversial. And we know that, and that sometimes it can be a little intense, right? Because we sometimes make very bold statements and bold positions. And I just want to thank you all, because you guys walk through this with me. And I know you guys don't agree with 100% of everything I do, but you agree with the majority that I do, and I appreciate you. And I just want to tell all of my audience and the people that have been supporting me and loving me for the last 2 years that I love you too, and I appreciate your love and support. So, and like, with the Zap Girl, I knew it wasn't going to be a pleasing statement that I was making, but it was the lawful statement. And it's a statement that I really think people need to look at. Everybody runs to emotions, and I get that too. But again, in order to be an effective advocate, you got to know what you're up against. And I did anticipate people rising up. That's why I prefaced the way I did yesterday. I knew that this was going to be an emotional situation. And I am super thankful that Brian Enton was able to bring the emotional side to the argument and bring his perspective to the argument. Again, mine is one of legal. And again, I think we were spot on with our assessment of what happened. And I think even though it was stated and packaged a little differently on News Nation, they basically said everything we said here. So with that, again, it's never a comfortable debate to have. But in all fairness, I don't run away from tough topics. I think that's why a lot of you do watch me and support me. Probably why a lot of people watch and hate as well, right? But I will continue to do that. Sometimes I'm right on the issues and sometimes I'm wrong on the issues. I believe that every side is right on this particular issue. There are some people that get education out of it. There are some people that are completely appalled by it. And I just think both sides, I do think that there needs to be respect and dignity on the streets of YouTube. I do. But YouTube and social media is also a place for people to get educated. And I don't want to prevent, there's a lot of grotesque stuff on the internet. We see it all the time. And I don't think that there's going to ever be a law that's going to limit that. We're going to have to find some type of tolerance for it because it is there. It's not, let's take Zab Girl out of the equation, just take her completely out of the equation. Was this the most shocking thing you've ever seen online? Let's be honest. It wasn't. It is not going to be. I can agree with that, Spice Girl. I'm not opposed to that. It wasn't respectful, but we are not, I wasn't talking about the respect aspect on here. I'm not talking about an emotional argument. That's for Brian Enton to have, I don't, unfortunately, I know it's tough for people that love me and want to support me when I come with bold positions and say that, it's not an emotional position because, there are things in the law that I don't agree with that I think are, a hard pill to swallow, but I believe in the law collectively. And because of that, I see things a little differently. And I can't be emotional to that because if I was emotional, I probably wouldn't like the law or respect the law. And unfortunately, what she did was lawful. It was legal. And she did it and for what the purpose she did. I don't think that her putting it behind the paywall was for monetary. And I could be wrong about it. And that's where my argument comes in is I don't think it was there for monetary purposes. I think it was there to make sure that only the people that could and wanted to learn about it could learn about it. Now, granted, that's speculation on my part, right? Maybe my position might be a little differently if information that I perceived to be true is not true. But it's an unfortunate situation no matter how you look at it. And I get it. And trust me, I understand the outrage. I do. But I also understand the law behind it. And I play the tape forward as many times as I could possibly play it forward. And I know that this is an unpopular stance. And you know what? There may be some people in my audience that doesn't like it and may decide to unsubscribe for 2 weeks. You guys never say unsubscribe forever. It's like a passive aggressive situation. You always come back. So just bear with it. We're going to say some stuff that people aren't going to like. We're going to say some stuff that people really do like. It's YouTube, right? It's live. Things don't come out all perfect and packaged well, right? But I totally and wholeheartedly disagree that somebody should be telling me what I'm allowed to consume for educational purposes. That I do have a problem with. Should this have been a conversation related to, I almost wish it was an older person so this conversation wouldn't be so emotional for people. It's an 11-year-old boy and how bad. We love families. We love victims' families. We love helping victims' families. But let me ask you this, and just putting it into a realistic perspective. if we're not allowed to look at autopsies and we're not allowed to ever look at autopsy photos, how are we supposed to learn about crime scenes? How are we supposed to learn about crime? Somebody's got to look at it. Not everybody. Like, I don't think this should be out for the general public. I don't think this should be out. And this should have been done. Like, if I don't even know, like I say, if I had it, right? Like, I wouldn't even be acquiring it, right? I'm not an autopsy person, right? If I want to learn about, bullet wounds or knives or something like that, I usually go to YouTube, Twitter, or somewhere else to learn about it, right? But I still learn about it. I still look at those images, not as a disrespect to the family. And most of these images are probably 30 or 40 years old anyways that I look at, but it's not to be disrespectful to the families. It's not to be disrespectful to the victim. It's to learn. It's to learn. And for me, that if it had no educational value to me, I would have probably had a different position about this whole situation. So that's kind of where I lie. It's not to be disrespect, and I get it. It is, and it's an emotional. This is an 11-year-old boy. I get it. I didn't look at the images. I didn't acquire the images. I'm not saying this from my personal perspective. I'm saying this from an overall perspective, and I believe that there are situations where if we were to limit our public records, we would be doing ourselves a disservice. As disgusting as some of these public records being disseminated, as disgusting as that is, if we didn't have that, there would be a lot of people in jail unnecessarily. And this is not just for people like the Innocence Projects and other things. If we were to limit what people this would be affecting, potentially schools or education. People don't always go to colleges for educations in certain fields. So I feel overall trying to limit the public records would be a detriment. But again, this was a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow as well. And obviously it outraged a lot of people. So, I do also believe in balance, right? We also have a duty to balance, weigh the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I know they're going to want to use Gannon in this situation as the poster child for why they need to limit this type of stuff. But you're going to have a litany of people that have been on death row tromping up there with reasons why you can't limit them. And that's just all I want my audience to understand. I don't have a dog in the fight. It's very sad that, like, I was so happy to know that Gannon Stout got justice and that Letitia is going away for the rest of her life because of what she did to that little boy. I was happy. I was happy there. I was proud of that. That's where I left it. Me personally believe that Gannon should be seen. But it's not about me personally, right? I don't come up here for personal stuff. I say my personal opinion, but at the end of the day, I'm a law and order person. And that's where my loyalty lies. It lies with the law, even above my own personal preference. And I hope the people that come here understand that. It's not easy and it's hard. Yeah, Shannon, I saw that. Yeah, and I reviewed it. And God bless Brian Enton. You guys know I love that man. Right? I love that man, right? So I'm glad he was able to represent the outrage of those that were outraged by what these two creators did. And again, I don't have a dog in the fight, but she didn't do anything unlawful. And even the state attorney that was up on Brian Enton's page or segment even stated so. So I'm sorry, guys. I know it sucks, And yeah, and I agree. Like I said, Sharon, there are things, like I said, there's things that appall me, but because I'm a law and order person, I stand on the side of the law, and I will always stand on the side of the law, even against my own personal preference. And it's just who I am. But I just want people to understand. Don't think I don't denounce your outrage. I do. But again, I stand behind. You don't have to watch it, and you can always change the channel. And I'm not going to get off that. And I know people want me to go and just fight and just pick up the sword and go running to the hill and die on that sword of, it's one of those things. I'm a law and order person, and I'm sorry. And hopefully you guys respect that. If some of you can't and just can't get past it, I can't make decisions for you. But I am who I am, and we run this channel based upon that, right? And we do provide facts. Let's not forget.
Took some pain medicine after a surgery, and she was struggling to drive. So I was like, just get over, just get in the passenger seat. I'll take you home. It's not too far, And yeah, they pulled me over for something like that, but I don't remember what name I gave them. She told me, just say something else, say a different name, because they don't, they're gonna arrest you. I'm just like, why can't I just tell them my name?
What was it like? 8 years without seeing some of your closest family members, and every time they'd come over, what would you have to do?
Hide. If my uncles or my aunts came to visit my mom, or my family would come to visit my grandma, that's the main reason they would go over there, to see my grandma. And I would just.
And that was what was the hardest part about this is, remember, the grandma kept telling the family that she was sitting with Rudy. She kept having conversations with Rudy. This is what sparked the family reaching out. And again, like I had said, I don't want us to not, how can I put this? Houston Police Department has some responsibility of this situation. Okay, period. We can't deny this. This man was living in this woman's house for 8 years. He was pulled over by law enforcement. There were several things where he came into contact with law enforcement. They went to the house to look for him. They were contacted multiple. This is not a one-time, we contacted law enforcement. They went and investigated and said it was unfounded. This was multiple calls. They could have, at the end of the day, they could have stationed somebody out. They could have had a tail on them. They could have gotten to the bottom of this if they so chose. But they continued to allow this to go on and allowed even more people to be fraudulently deceived by this woman. And that really does just kind of rub me the wrong way a little bit. Now, granted, let's be honest, this doesn't happen often. And I doubt law enforcement was expecting a mother to lie about her son being gone. How many people literally call law enforcement to report people missing that aren't missing? It's not a common event. So I don't think that they would have even thought twice about it. They would have, what their thoughts probably were, is this is an annoyed family member that thinks this woman's up to no good. That's what they most likely thought, that this was probably a family dispute, right? It happens. But why for years act like he's still missing? Frankie baby, fraud. Every year she was collecting money for him being missing. She even went, when the well was drying out for Rudy's case, she started making up people and saying that the people were abducted, beat up, and sent to the hospital. These are fictitious people in an effort to run a fundraiser to extort money for a fake person that wasn't abducted, beaten, or robbed. So, Frankie baby, that's why. But you can see a clear path. You can see a clear pattern with her. It seemed as if when Rudy's case was drying up and she wasn't getting the kinds of donations that she wanted from Rudy's disappearance, she started making up fictitious people like Bella. She absolutely needs jail time. Robert's girl. Mike Stevens, we need to bring you up. You need to be the defense counsel for your innocent client, Janie Santana. And I will represent the state of YouTube. Nobody's better for the job than Mike Stevens to get somebody off of a crime like this, right? 10 Big Macs is payment, and not a Big Mac more. Yes, so, Rudy definitely appears to have abuses. This is definitely a broken man. We can all agree with that. If nothing more, even if something, Bella, Alexa, and more. And thank you, Susiana. Susiana has been keeping us up to date on this particular case. So just a big shout out to her for getting all the information.
Listen to my family be happy,
over
cheerful,
to correct me on a few things I had wrong.
And I'm just like, I want my families, I just want people. I just want communication. I just want people to understand that we need to start talking more and just stop, like.
Did you want to just end it right there and go out and tell them that you're here and you're okay?
I just want them to know that I wanted to scream for them, but at the same time, I just couldn't, because the only person I was able to trust was my mom. She told me so many things about my other family that I didn't know. I wasn't able to verify.
Was your grandma living with you at one point?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had so, and she tried to tell people that you were there?
Yes, ma'am.
She had Alzheimer's. Was she sick?
She had Alzheimer's and dementia, sundown syndrome. She had a bunch of medical issues, and that's why I took care of her the best I could.
And did she ever say to you anything about Rudy? Go out, tell police, did she ever say anything to you? Because it seems like she tried to tell family members that you were there.
Yeah, I think she tried telling people, but it's just my mom. I don't know. I'm honestly not sure about that one.
Do you feel like your mom held you captive? Is that how you would?
Pretty much. I mean, in a sense, just not in a physical, restraints or anything, but mentally she held me against my will, which is, I wanted to just come out and say stuff and be honest. And every time I would try to, she would just either be, no, don't do it, or, all right, go do it.
Why do you think she did that?
I don't know. It's because maybe both of our problems stemmed from my brother passing away. My brother had passed away, and ever since then, he was like our glue. He was like the father figure. He's a provider. He took care of the family. Me and my mom. And then when I couldn't
makes you wonder what. Sounds sick to even think about it, but it makes you wonder whether his older brother had to deal with these types of abuses as well. Right? He said a lot of things that are disturbing when I hear him. He was the man of the house. He was the provider. It doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy.
Take care of my mom anymore. I had to take care of my grandma. And it was difficult. It was especially at the end.
Did you see your mom change her personality over the years?
She was always kind of had that mentality.
Always had that mentality.
Talk to her about something positive, and then, or address her issues, and then my mom would just deviate, sidetrack, or completely ignore it. Especially stuff like mental health.
This is your chance. Finally, we've heard from family members. We've heard from police. It's finally your chance to tell your story. Is there anything that you want people to know about what happened to you?
I wanted to live my life, and just something inside of my brain kept going back to her. She was my life support in a sense. I needed her. Or at least she made me feel that way. She never gave me the confidence or the guidance or the teaching that I needed. She never gave me anything other than just the bare necessities and a job worth slaving over to help her pay bills and debts or whatever. or tickets and stuff, you know.
Without getting into specifics, I'm sure you've heard or seen what Quanell told the media last week.
About what in particular?
About things that he says that you told him in that hotel room last week.
Specifically
about some of the sexual things.
See, that's what I'm saying. The twisting. No, I didn't say anything like intercourse or this and that.
But
like,
no, I don't necessarily think he didn't get into specifics like that either. But he did mention that your mom wanted you to play the role of husband in the house.
Yeah, pretty much. It basically felt like that. Like, you know, make sure to cook, or, oh, you didn't make me any food. You didn't do this and that. It's just like, I just want to provide for myself. I don't want.
So he's saying that he said these things, but what he was meaning was different than Quanell was. But Quanell was very specific. But it sounds like Rudy did tell him, because he sounds like he's explaining what he said.
I want to keep providing for my mom. I just treat it like a roommate towards the end, you know, like, I'm tired of being your son. I just want to be your roommate. I just want to live my life. Give me my check instead of $60 for 12-hour shifts 7 days a week at night, you know, like, I just want to live.
She would make you go to work with her, is that?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we don't want to twist your words. We want to say it from your perspective, and we want to make sure we get this right. So I know she had you play the role of a father, but as far as sexual assault or something of that nature, did she ever force? You don't have to go into detail, but
she didn't force herself on me or anything like that. Like, it wouldn't be anything like I would have to go get a rape kit or go file a police report. Okay. It would never be anything like that. Just stuff that really made me uncomfortable, and I didn't have any references or other people to bounce off of to understand that, like, if it's a healthy thing that she does or not. You know, maybe it's just me not understanding how people work, because she's the only person I understand. But
would you say that you and your mom have a normal son-mother relationship?
He doesn't know what one is. He just said that.
Not after all of that. Not after everything she did. And to be honest, I don't want.
Sounds to me like he's holding back something.
When you finally left a few weeks ago, when you were found at the church, what happened? Did you just finally have enough?
Yeah, I just been walking.
My assumption.
I didn't care if I had a car or money or anything. I don't care about money. I don't care about a car. I don't care about anything. Just happiness and love.
How did you end up at the church? Did you just have nowhere to go?
I just kept walking around. I just kept trying to find back home, you know, something that felt familiar. And the only thing that felt familiar was this side of town. You know, I grew up over there by Austin and Humble and Jackson and all that, you know, Jackson and Austin and, you know, just that general area by the freeway, you know. So I kind of got a general sense of where I was going, but I just couldn't find something to be happy at. I found a church and I rolled with being at a church. You know?
Are you still talking with your mom?
No, I don't want any contact with her, but she keeps trying to come around.
If she sees this story, what would you tell her?
Just leave me alone. Just let me live my life. Just want to be happy, and I'm happy now.
That is a man that I'm sorry, but you're talking about a boy that's had nobody but his mother in his life. You know, we typically proclaim those boys to be mama boys, you know, the ones that love their mama. This is not the type of case that we have here. You would think of a 25-year-old boy that's living at home with his mom, that does a lot of stuff with his mom, would have this love and compassion. He wants nothing to do with her. There's definitely things that happened in this home. And I feel, because of how much attention this case has gotten, that maybe he's second guessing what he said. Maybe he's walking some of those back by suggestions of others. There are possibilities. And again, we can't discredit the fact that, you know, Quanell may have just misunderstood what he said. I honestly, it's hard for me to believe that, because of the conviction that Quanell had and the fact that his statements never wavered. It was the same statement at the, that's hard to do. Those fine details are hard to get right when you're peddling lies. A good liar can do it well, right? But I don't consider Quinnell a good liar. I don't consider him a liar at all. So there's definitely something here, but I don't know how my audience feels about it. You guys can only make the decision for yourselves. But to me, it feels like he's holding a lot back, which makes me feel that a lot that he's holding back could potentially be him not coming forward now with the whole SA allegations. Susanna says half brother is probably 25, and I think Janie used the other birthday. Interesting.
What would you say to people that think that somehow, now that you're an adult, that you were in on this? What would you say to those people that don't understand Stockholm?
It's very much a real thing. It's a struggle when you're the only one that understands it. It's even worse when everybody wants to assume the worst rather than understand and communicate genuinely and honestly, because there's just too much confusion in this world.
How are you feeling now? Is there relief?
Yeah, very much. A lot of
He's
relief.
relieved.
It just feels like I'm just at peace.
But see, this is such a tricky case because it's like, and I don't know how to say this, no matter what I say, people are going to take offense to it. So that's why I'm so blunt. It's just, sometimes it's just easier to be direct, assertive, and blunt. These are the reasons why I think that it's possible that Rudy could get caught up in the tanglement of the fraud. Because even though he's distancing himself from this, in reality, me looking at it with just, a lens, like, it's making it difficult for me. And this may be the reason why law enforcement is having a hard time with bringing charges, because in all fairness, based upon some of the stuff he's saying in here, it seems like he would have defenses to some of this stuff. That's not what I'm saying here. He has defenses, but it's things like that he just said that kind of make me feel he had more culpability or more of a hand in the fraud aspect of this. Now, granted, again, he very much manipulated by his mom, by the situation that he's in. But again, it sounds like an adult knew something was going on. And that might potentially be the issue. I think Rudy may very well be confused. Absolutely. And he does sound very confused. And, we did hear about him being on some kind of drugs or narcotics. That may need to be flushed out of his system so he can get, a good understanding. Robin, happy birthday, Robin. God bless you. God bless you. So Shar says, I think Rudy may very well be confused as he's processing everything that he has been told, all that has happened, the violations I believed happened. I do too. I think somebody's in his ear. And I think that the reason why they're in his ears because he's an adult and they're never going to get her on those charges. And it's going to be a detriment in his life to have this tag on him as he tries to go into recovery. I think it's at this point, it's best to take a step back, try to de-escalate it out of the public eye. So he has an opportunity to have some type of normalcy. We can all agree he has not had a normal life. And God bless him for being as coherent and put together as he is. The scars he possesses are scars we can't see. Oh, no, I did not, May. Send, if you can, send something to me at bullhornbetty@gmail.com. It's unbelievable. Got us to believe he couldn't just leave and tell the truth. But think about a controlling, abusive spouse. How often, yes, stay longer than they should. And we talk about that all the time. And we also talk about all the time how, you know, some of the hardest things to do is just get up and leave. It's the hardest thing to do. But sometimes if you want to gain your life back, you have to. Rudy did. Rudy got up one day and said he had enough. He didn't care how he was getting away. He was just going out that door. God bless him for that. God bless him for that.
Now it just feels happy, you know.
And how have police been handling this, do you think? What have they been saying to you, and what's it been like?
I mean, they're trying the best that they can and giving me space that they can, but it's just, it's a struggle still, you know. I'm just slowly trying to take it one day at a time, you know. It's just a lot it overwhelms me very much.
Given everything that you've been through and with your mom, I mean, do you think there's something that police should know about?
Just that there's a lot of corruption, and it's literally through the colors. Like I said, I'm not
Corruption
saying,
through the
there's
colors.
corrupt cops and this and that. Literally, it's
Like, he kind of comes off. The colors is what's getting me. It almost seems hippie-ish. I don't know how to express it in words. I'm struggling with words to describe some of the commentary he's making about it. It does. Some of his commentary still seems a little bizarre, which would bode right into the abuses and stuff like that at his home. But it's trippy. That's the word I'd like to use. He seems trippy. Like, he sounds trippy. Like he sounds like he's been on psychedelic drugs, I guess is the best description.
the corruption of the mind. It's through nanobots and
Nanobots.
like the flu vaccines and everything. That's why people have that first memory of waking up and being alive whenever they're a kid, you know. It's like I said, literally corruption, like the colors. I'm not talking about the skin tones. I literally mean actual colors. Whenever you look at them, they influence the direction you go. And online, the media, like the computers and the people we talk to, it's all connected in a sense. That's why it just confuses us. Whenever we look at white things, we get distracted and stuff. And we look at the reds and we remind us that it's love, but they kind of influence us to assume, you know, like through bad stuff online. They're like, oh, red's bad, you know, it's evil, it's a devil. It's like, it's not all that.
For 8 years, you haven't really been able to speak to anyone besides some neighbors, your mom, going to work sometimes. Your communication seems like it's been very little. Do you think that's impacted you throughout the years, as not being able to really have real relationships with people?
Exactly. I wasn't able to understand like how people thought or acted, you know. Like I would try to introduce myself, say hello to people online or this and that, and every time it just seemed like, you know, just completely get shot down by people, and I'm just trying to make friends or socialize, and it's just like I don't understand how to talk to people sometimes. You know, it feels like I'm speaking a completely different language than them, and I just don't understand sometimes.
Would you call yourself a victim?
Yes, heavily.
I'm almost done, personally. I don't know about you guys,
Yeah.
but for the longest time, you've stayed hidden. You haven't been able to say who you are. Is it nice? I mean, you can say who you are now. You can be your own self and do your own life.
Yes, sir.
What are you hoping?
Just a job, get my own money, and help out my communities, help out my people, and help out other kids like me. Because I don't want this to happen to other people, because I'm sure it happens to a lot of people.
And I told you guys, this can't be the only case. This is the only case we're hearing of, right? How many other people have their children listed as missing in an effort to defraud people? There might be a lot more than just her. I'd have to think if she's not the brightest cookie or the brightest star in the sky, right? So this can't be the first or the last. There's got to be many, many more. If there's one, there's hundreds. Trash it out. Yeah. I don't take offense to that statement. I kind of concur with it in some respects, actually in most respects, believe it or not. Trash it out says, I'm going to be, and we love brutal honesty here. And, your opinion, it does matter, just, and it's being said respectfully. I think he was in it with his mom. I have no doubt she was overbearing and controlling, but not buying much else. I do believe he was culpable in this, guys. That's where I'm going with this. I know this is a sad story. I feel so bad for Rudy, but again, there's something missing here. This story still doesn't make sense to me. I feel for this boy, and I believe he was manipulated. But this might really truly be why there's so much apprehension from law enforcement to act in this case. They probably feel much like many of us do, that this man was truly abused. He was manipulated. He was under the control of his mother, but he still acted with knowledge. And that's my biggest concern, because nothing's worse than watching a victim. We all agree he's a victim. At least most of us agree that this man is a victim. And our heart bleeds for him. And we want him, after everything he has been through, we want him to have an opportunity to have his own life and live his own life. He was repressed by her lie. Yeah, no one could keep it up long term. Right. And I believe that he would have never done anything unless his mother made him do it. I truly believe that. But he's describing knowledge, and we can't excuse. I mean, we can excuse it. Of course we can excuse it. We know what situation it is, but we can't act like he's not acknowledging it, is what I'm trying to say. Abused children still love their parents. Yes. Abusers and tend to defend them. They want their approval. They want to earn their love. Exactly. And that very well. And I believe all of this plays into this case. But if we're going to analyze this case thoroughly, we do have to talk about the things people don't want to talk about. And we do have to talk about other perspectives until we find out more information. But I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to see if we can just go back just 10 seconds. I want you to hear it again.
Just a job, get my own money, and help out my communities, help out my people, and help out other kids like me. Because I don't want this to happen to other people.
Oh, wait, I
Hold on. I just don't understand. Just like, I don't understand how to talk to people sometimes. It feels like I'm speaking a completely different language than them, and I just don't understand sometimes.
Would you call yourself a victim?
Yes, heavily.
I'm almost done, personally. I don't know about you guys, but for the longest time, you've stayed hidden. You haven't been able to say who you are. Is it nice? I mean, you can say who you are now. You can be your own self and do your own life.
Yes, sir.
What are you hoping?
Just a job, get my own money, and help out my communities, help out my people, and help out other kids like me. Because I don't want this to happen to other people, because I'm sure it happens to a lot of people. A lot of abuse and just neglect and just harmful ways of parenting that shouldn't be out there. There's just so many negative ways that
he's talking about harmful. He's talking about harmful parenting. I mean, he seems well educated at minimum. But he's happy he's going to be able to say his name. And again, that's the problem I have, is he knew he couldn't say his name. He knew something was preventing him from saying his name. He knew, based upon law enforcement, that he had a warrant for his arrest and was going to go to jail if he didn't stay hidden. That's, as stupid as that was, I feel bad for them. That's all.
And they don't understand or realize that there's no help for them.
Another question we have for you is, so it's totally up to you or not. At first, we weren't going to because of the sexual assault aspect, but we want to put the record straight that you said that's part's not true.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
want to show your face or you don't want to show your face?
I'm not a big fan of showing my face, especially with a lot of people already knowing what I look like.
Oh,
It
yeah.
just makes it even worse.
I just want to make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't worry, Rudy, we got you.
Anything we didn't ask that you think is important that you want us to
Good
mention?
question,
because
Ms.
we are
Meadows.
here to finally tell your story. Anything that we didn't ask that you want to make sure people know about?
Just all I can say is just spread positivity and love.
The people that you're with, you know, a lot of people are coming down hard on Nikki and the people
They
you're
don't
with.
deserve it. They don't. They really don't. They helped me so much, and they've given me a place to stay and a family. In a sense, you know, it makes me happy.
Yeah,
it really does. I never had, a lot of people to talk with or socialize with, and it just makes me happy knowing that I have people here that I can trust and that can take care of me and that understand that, sometimes people struggle.
So you consider yourself safe, out of harm, all that, right? Like you're with.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm happy here. I'm very happy here, and they're very good people. They don't deserve any negativity towards them or hatred. They should have a lot of help and support and guidance and just prayers and positivity. Just everything that anybody would need to be happy in life.
And your mom, when she comes by, do you feel like you are being like kept away from her when she comes and stops by or tries to talk to you?
I just don't want her here because I know the way she acts, it influences everybody around me. It's not just me. It's like she sends that negativity towards me, and then I send it back out towards everybody else, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
I know Grizzy was mentioning that you might have had like someone from your high school reach out, and you've had a lot of attention from this a girl.
Yeah. You got some classmates, man. When you were going to to Catholic school, you got some classmates reaching out, which I told you about. Any messages to all the people that know you from before all this went down, that love you, that say they're here for you?
Just thank you very much for reaching out. And when I'm ready, I'll be able to reach out to the people I care about and love. And
Are you surprised by all this attention? I mean, it's been on the news across the world.
I wasn't expecting that much attention, to be honest. I didn't realize that it was happening so big, just growing so much.
Are you going to I know police mentioned that there were some resources. Are you plans to talk to anybody that they put you in touch with?
At some point. It's just right now, I just rather do it by myself, just try to learn to understand how to live and be a normal person,
Have you gotten
and be nice.
Have you gotten an attorney?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Lawyer? No.
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
And then have you talked to Quanell since you saw him at the hotel?
No.
No.
No, sir.
You guys have anything else? Anything else you want to add, Rudy?
Just spread some positivity.
Spread some positivity.
Wildflower, not wildfire, because we need more colors and beauty in this world. We don't need any more hatred or burning things down. We need to just stop, trying to disassemble everything and just take out the bolts and the screws and try to clean things, instead of looking at everything so negatively. Just look at all the positivity in the world. Focus on the positivity, because every time you focus on the negativity, it just creates more negativity around you and your communities.
Yeah, we can all agree with that. You know what? More positivity. I think that is a great message. More positivity. There's enough negativity in this world. And just great messaging from that young man.
When half of American parents can't find license.
I wish they would just not autoplay. Yeah. So, guys, we made it. I still have a ton of things that I wanted to get through today, but I wasn't expecting this to be a 3-hour live either. But I wanted to get through that because I have to be honest with you, my perspective did change personally from this interview. It really did. And again, there was just Aw, well, happy birthday, Robin. God bless you. God bless you. Um, sometimes, and this is where why I just totally don't listen to outside influences, because they get in my brain and they make me start thinking. I don't like it. So I like being blunt. I like, I think emotions are personal and should be, handled not on YouTube. And so with that being said, it makes it hard for sometimes for me to evaluate cases properly, right? Because everybody wants it to be one way or the other way, or they have the emotional connection to the case. I have an emotional connection to Rudy Farias. I do. We've been monitoring his case. We've been watching all the twists and turns. I've been looking into it. I feel really, really, really bad for this young boy. And I'm just preparing my audience, not saying that it will happen, but looking at this from a legal perspective, it sounds like he knew. It sounds like at some point he was almost a willing participant. And I'm unfortunately not allowed to. This is where it comes, where it's hard, right? You've got a victim here. This is not a good situation. It's bad. And we know that Rudy has gone through a lot, that we know. But at some point, this man knew what he was doing. And he knew that there was a reason why he was conning, scheming, and lying. And just like the kids that were in Marion County that I went to go follow the case, remember that? Where it was the teenagers, 3 teenagers dead, 3 teenagers arrested. Come to find out, the victims were actually criminals. It was a criminal enterprise of 6 people, and 3 decided to take the other 3 out. It was a horrible, horrible tragedy. It was a horrible tragedy. But all 6 of those people were criminals. Now, I'm not going that far and saying Rudy's a criminal. I'm not going to go there. He's a victim. But he does have some culpability in some of the crimes that were perpetrated. And I don't know to what level his involvement was in those, but there is involvement. And I would feel that by me not bringing that aspect up here on this show would be deceptive. It would be deceptive. So I don't know where this case is going to go, but I definitely know that Rudy needs help. And somebody has even brought up that, potentially, inpatient treatment. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea, but I think at this point, outpatient treatment would probably be more appropriate in the respect that, clearly Rudy's already felt like a prisoner all this time, and I don't know, locking him away in a inpatient facility is going to help with that aspect of what happened to him. But we all can agree that he definitely needs love. You can hear that he has been very sheltered. You can tell that he's not really gone out into the world much. But God bless him for finally breaking the chains and getting out. And, unfortunately, breaking those chains and getting out may mean he's got some things he's going to have to deal with. But it's time to deal with them, right? He's been running away from him for 8 years. We definitely want to support him no matter what he walks through, right? Even if he is, for all intents and purposes, say they do find him more culpable than we know, and they do make an arrest in the matter, and he happens to be one, he's going to need our support and our love even more, because we know that he has to walk through this and walk down this this path because of what happened to him. But it doesn't mean he's not going to be successful at the end of this. It's just a path that must be walked down, right? And so if that does happen, he's going to need the support of the community even more. He's going to need the love and the compassion even more. We know something happened to him. And I'm just hoping that his mother didn't do or make him do something that's going to make him have to go through more trauma than he's already been through. That's really the nuts and bolts of it. So with that, guys, I want you to be fearless. If you see something, say something. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And until next time, be safe and kind to one another. And remember, let's take Rudy's advice, right? There's enough negativity in the world. It's time for positivity. Let's be positive. Let's be good. And let's be kind to one another. God bless you.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.